Hello, so today I'm taking you inside my kitchen and I'm going to take you inside my food cupboard and look at some of the staples that you tend to find in food cupboards in Italy, and just to give you a little glimpse into how I eat here in Italy, because it's very different to how I used to eat in the UK. So let's get into it, shall we? So let's talk about the first food cupboard essential here in Italy, and it is of course olive oil. Now there are so many different brands in the supermarkets here to do with olive oil, and you can also buy higher quality, more premium olive oils from local producers and from independent shops. But olive oil is the staple of the majority of Italian dishes and cooking in general. And a little tip that somebody told me is that the darker the bottle of olive oil, the higher the quality of the olive oil itself. So you can get cheaper brands of olive oil in the supermarket. This is like a middle of the road brand. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. But you can get cheaper brands, and the bottles tend to be quite transparent. So they're quite light in their colour. And for this, you understand that it is not the highest quality olive oil. So just a little tip if you're new to the whole olive oil world, but this is the staple of Italian cooking. Every kitchen in Italy, I'm sure for this, will have a bottle of olive oil in the cupboard. Now, of course, some items that you cook, it is better not to use olive oil. For example, if you're frying chips or something similar. So you can buy special oil that you can use to fry these items with, and people would tend to do this as opposed to using olive oil in those situations. Let's talk about tomatoes, my favorite food item in Italy. And it's so funny because in the UK I didn't eat fresh tomatoes for, I don't know, years and years, but here I absolutely love them. Now, of course, I don't always buy fresh tomatoes. I buy tinned tomatoes too, and this forms the basis of a lot of my pasta sauces. And there are different types of tomatoes that you can buy, different varieties, different colours. It's like a whole shopping experience all by itself. But the ones that I tend to use, I use pulpa tomatoes, which is like tomatoes that are really smashed down into small chunks. And I tend to use this type of tomato when I'm making pasta sauces. And recently, I have gotten into eating the plum tomatoes, the whole plum tomatoes, which I used to have in the UK for breakfast with scrambled eggs and toast. And this is kind of like my little UK memory at the moment. So I've been having this a lot with eggs in the evening, and it's very delicious. And then of course you have passata, which is like where the sauce is like extremely smooth and the tomatoes are just like a liquid basically. And the passata sauce, you have to be careful because there are different brands and different types of quality that you will get with this type of sauce. But for example, today on my stove, I'm cooking rice and I'm going to mix the rice with the passata sauce, and that's going to be my lunch. Very delicious. But the fresh passata sauce is the absolute best. My boyfriend's family, they make fresh passata sauce every year. There are different moments in the year when the tomatoes for this are in season, but I have a bottle, it's very frozen, but this is fresh passata sauce. It's been frozen because the particular process, how it was made, has meant that it wouldn't have stayed fresh if it was just kept in the fridge for a very long period of time. So for this reason, I had to freeze it, but it's going straight back in the freezer. I'm not ready to use it up yet. It's just absolutely wonderful. But this is the thing, like with the tomatoes, even with the tomatoes, it is like an education, knowing which ones to use, knowing the best quality, knowing the best type. But yes, tomatoes are an essential staple in my Italian food cupboard. So let's talk about some other essentials in my food cupboard, shall we? Salt. Salt is like needed for virtually every dish that I cook. When you boil the water for pasta, it needs a lot of salt. When you are adding seasoning to your food, you use salt. So it is an essential part of any Italian's food cupboard, which moves me rather nicely onto herbs and spices. So I have black pepper, which I add to season my food, red pepper flakes, which I use, and this is particularly wonderful with garlic and like a spaghetti form of pasta. Very, very delicious. And then I have rosemary. This reminds me of roast chicken dinners in the UK, and rosemary, roast potatoes and chicken. Oh, it's delicious. So these are my little herbs that I use. I don't have a huge selection, but as you can see, I use the red pepper flakes a lot when I'm cooking my pasta sauces. So on to another kitchen staple, and it is of course garlic. I used to hate garlic in the UK. My parents would eat garlic religiously, even like fresh cloves of garlic, because of its medicinal benefits. But I have to be honest, I didn't buy garlic here for about a month, I think, and I really noticed a difference in my cooking. Like, my cooking was bland. The garlic really adds the flavour, and let's be honest, we are now in October at this time of filming, and so we need to be boosting our immune system, so garlic is the perfect way to do that. So yes, garlic forms the basis of a lot of Italian dishes, and so you'll always find a clove of garlic in an Italian's food cupboard. And let's not forget onions. So onions are used as well when you're cooking meat dishes, in the base of a lot of pasta dishes. So if you don't use garlic, you'll tend to use onion. I don't really know of many dishes where you use them both together. Anyway, for the way I've learned how to cook here, I've either cooked with garlic or I've either cooked with onion. And obviously it depends what you are cooking it with. Now, I would not be in Italy if I did not talk about pasta. There are so many different types of pasta that it is actually a marvel to go shopping. There are aisles upon aisles in the supermarket dedicated to all the different varieties of pasta. You can buy fresh pasta in the refrigerated section, you can buy more specialist artisan pasta, and then of course you can buy your regular pasta if you like. And for example, even this type of pasta, this I bought in Sicily, in Palermo. This is a type of pasta that is special to that region because it's how you make pasta al forno, which is the oven-baked pasta, which is typical to Palermo, to Sicily. So for this reason, you will only tend to find this type of pasta in the Sicily region. And you know, there are other parts of Italy that will have their own type of pasta that you cannot find easily in other regions. So it's very special. Now, with all these different types of pasta, it goes without saying that each variety of pasta has a specific dish that is usually made with it. Now, of course, I haven't got the foggiest idea of the different types of dishes that require the different varieties of pasta, but all I do know is it's an adventure to try and explore each one. And then we also have panna. So, panna da cucina is the savoury panna, if you like. It's like a cream that you can use to cook with a lot of pasta dishes. So where I was talking to you about the different types of pasta before, you could buy fresh pasta, often with like a meat filling, and this is beautiful to cook that type of pasta with. And also you can do pasta with like green peas and the panna. It's just a different way to create a base for your pasta sauce. So this is something else that you will often find a lot of Italian people buying. So let's talk about breakfast, shall we? Now, breakfast here in Italy is obviously very different to how breakfast is in the UK. In the UK, we often have eggs or cereal or something similar. Now, Italians will often have cereal. Of course, they sell it here. I just choose not to because I'm not a fan of the milk over here. So I tend to have the traditional dolce, the traditional sweet breakfast. So I always have fresh juice every morning with my breakfast, that goes without saying, as well as, of course, water. I start my day with water and I drink one of these bottles every single day at least. Some days I drink more, some days I drink a little less, but this is always my guiding point as to how much water I want to consume in a day. And then with my breakfast, I will have Nutella, which I think is the staple of any Italian home. I'm absolutely in awe of when you go into like the big bars here, they have gigantic tubs of Nutella, which they fill their croissants or cornetto with. It's amazing. So yes, I always have Nutella for breakfast, and I tend to have it with either plum cake, or plum cake, as you would say it in English, which, by the way, does not contain any fruit. There are no plums included in this recipe. It is basically a yogurt-based sponge cake, but it's very, very delicious. Or I will have it with something similar, another type of dolce, whether it's a cornetto, a croissant, or something similar, another sweet dolce. This is what I tend to have for breakfast with Nutella. And then, of course, no breakfast is complete without coffee. So yes, I will have 2 espressos every morning for breakfast. And that's how I start my day, every day. And then of course, when I'm not drinking water or coffee, I drink iced tea. So you can have different varieties of iced tea here. So I like to drink iced tea, even in the cooler months, it's very, very lovely. Or I drink cola. So we tend to drink Pepsi or cola with like our main meals, but not a lot. I definitely used to drink a lot more of this in the UK, like all the time, but here I limit it just to like my lunchtime or my dinner time. And then of course, although I'm cutting down, I also drink wine. And this is a Grillo, which I'm kind of into at the moment, having come back from Sicily in the summer. So for this, I will always buy a bottle of wine. The fridge is never without wine, unless I need to go to the supermarket. Now here as well, I also eat a lot of cheese. So I tend to buy the little snack cheeses, the Parmigiano Reggiano. Oh my goodness, I've probably completely killed that. But yes, Parmigiano Reggiano. It's delicious either way. And then of course I have cheese on all of my pasta dishes, including fish, which drives my boyfriend absolutely crazy. This is generally what I typically tend to eat. Of course I eat fruit occasionally when the fruit I like is in season, and vegetables as well, and mozzarella. I didn't buy any mozzarella this week, but I do eat mozzarella on a regular basis as well. And of course I have frozen food as well, like chips and frozen basil leaves, which are amazing because basil is very, very delicate, and fresh basil only lasts typically a couple of days. So it's very good to have frozen but fresh basil leaves that I can add to my dishes whenever I want to. So those as well. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I hope you've enjoyed this little video. I thought it would be a fun experiment to show you what I eat generally and what is in my food cupboard, because honestly in the UK it was full of crisps, chocolate, snacks, just wasn't anywhere near as nice as it is now. So I will see you in the next video.